Okay, welcome everyone to the Unlock Your Fairy Tale Business Challenge. So we're here with Michelle and we're going to help you to, on day one, become more visible. So Michelle, I think a lot of people don't realize how much of a visibility problem they actually have.
Yeah,
What would you say?
Yeah, this is true, and this is a big part of my own story. So I spent 2 years really terrified, locked up in my house after I closed my private practice in mental health, and I thought that I was just going to take one business model that I was using, all the marketing and all the sales that I had learned to digitally advertise myself in my first entrepreneurial venture. I thought I was just going to copy paste that into a spiritual coaching model, an energy healing model, and just kind of ride off into the sunset. And that's not what happened. I spent 2 years like really scared and quite frankly pretty alone in my own skin and in a state of, I would say, spiritual terror.
Yeah.
But the key point here is that if you would have asked me, Michelle, are you scared of being visible? Are you scared of being seen? Is that the root of what's going on here right now? I would have said, no, it's this and it's all these outside circumstances. I had blame going on. But I was also confronting quite a bit within myself as well at that time. And I just couldn't see that really this was about visibility, and it was about a fear of being persecuted.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I talk to Lightworkers, the more I see that I was far from alone. So many people are dealing with this, but I think that the biggest key is that people don't even know that they're dealing with this. So a good part of our talk today is I want to help people understand if they're actually dealing with visibility, because you can't change the problem and you can't find the right solution until you actually know what the right problem is.
Yeah, I have some questions that might help a person realize that it's visibility that's the problem. Okay, so here's the first question. It's like, first of all, we have to understand that we are actually an expert and we're qualified to be a guide of somebody else. And you may, sometimes in your moments, you may not realize that, but then also just think about it like this. 50% of the people in the world don't know what you know. That's conservative. I'd say more like 75%, 80%, 90, 99% possibly aren't as qualified as you in whatever modality that you do. And I know 99% seems like a lot, but like out of 7 billion people, you know, that leaves quite a few people that are still qualified as you, right? But most people are not. And so the fact that you're much, much more qualified than everybody else, then the question is, okay, so then how come you're hesitant? How come you're hesitant to put yourself out there? How come, you know, there's not rocket science to this digital marketing stuff. A lot of it is just like putting yourself out there consistently in a certain way.
Yeah, like,
right?
You know you've got gifts, you know you have an authority on certain topics, you know maybe you've led yourself through a transformation and you know that you're an authority on this particular change or this particular transformation, so like what gives?
Yeah, I mean, if you really need a conservative estimate, at least 50% of the people in the world on Facebook need your help. At least 50%. That's a lot of people. So how come you don't think you're an expert? How come you're hesitant? How come you don't think you're ready to put yourself out there? And then if I were to give you a strategy and say, okay, this is it, do this. Just do this kind of video. The advice I've received was do a 3.5 minute Facebook Live every day. Okay, so go do it. And then it's like, okay, how come I can't?
Yep.
Even though I want to, I know I'm an expert, I know I can help people, I have compassion in my heart. What's wrong?
Yeah, what's wrong? I feel paralyzed. Maybe I feel like my body's locking up. I feel like my voice is going quiet. I feel like I just don't have the words.
Yeah. So it's a visibility problem.
Yep.
And yes, there is coaching that we need around strategy and stuff. Like we want to make sure our effort is not wasted effort. And we can get into strategy.
But our effort is going to be, and that's the thing, like our effort is going to be wasted effort if we have this visibility wound and we just plow through it. And we just push and we just rip open our own flower and push ourselves forward without actually doing the inner work underneath.
Yeah. And here's the problem that a lot of people do. And now I hope you're okay with this advice that I'm about to give. This is not easy advice. A lot of people in our position, sensitive, heart-centered, spiritual people, some people we hide by hiding, and some people we hide by masking. So you have to question yourself, when I do finally put myself out there, am I masking?
Yep.
Am I promoting a multi-level marketing product? Am I promoting something that isn't me? Am I taking on some hypey mentality to promote something that isn't really me with a persona that isn't really me, just so that I can feel like I'm doing it, but I'm protecting myself. I'm protecting my actual self. Does that make sense? So
and here's why that's a problem. Here's why that's a problem. Because from a multidimensional perspective, what's happening is that you're actually creating a false timeline. So like when you do that and when you mask, you're actually creating a false timeline, and then you're going to get to a point where all of it has to be collapsed anyways, and that's not fun for anybody.
You have to go backwards.
And you're going to have to go backwards.
It's
so just
okay.
So just do yourself a favor, and get the right support so that you can step out as your authentic self and then do it right the first time.
Yeah, how can you put your real heart out there is the question. And if you were to ask Michelle, I think I've already found out this answer. Let me know if this is correct. If you were to ask Michelle, what was it that finally got you through the 2-year visibility haunting that you had? And the couple of things that I've learned from Michelle about this are, number one, it was the compassion for other people who needed her help, and the other one was fear that she would die with the unripened potential.
Yep.
Was this right?
Yeah, and I think that's really, I remember I kind of sat back in my quiet moment. I remember thinking, this could go on forever. This push-pull of me not moving forward, even though I'm scared, even though I knew I was supposed to, even though every time I laid down, my guidance was like, you need to start building a business. Every time I laid down, I would be getting this guidance.
I had similar guidance. I had similar guidance for me to be a life coach. That was my first kind of special blessing that I kept receiving. I would have given it up many times because it wasn't easy. It was very hard. But in my position, I was a former monk, or at the time even I was a monk while I was getting this guidance to be a life coach, and I wasn't really able to do both at the same time because I was a teacher in that tradition. I had a public face in that tradition, so I couldn't be a coach at that time.
Yeah, nobody said our guidance was easy, right? Nobody said that our guidance wasn't going to challenge everything within us. Nobody said that our guidance wasn't going to make us question, well, wait a second, where is this headed? What am I going to have to let go of in order to fulfill this calling or this blessing in my life? I know that you guys are dealing with this.
It was not easy.
I know that you guys are dealing with this.
But the thing is, the blessing kept coming, so I knew what to do. And basically, in my case, I had a harder situation than you, that guaranteed. For me, I had a contract that said I wasn't allowed to teach anything that was the same presentation as what I'd learned. I was kind of qualified to teach a certain thing. I wasn't able to teach that without their permission, or to teach Buddhist teachings for monetary gain. And so every time I would do anything that even looked remotely like I was going to do that, even though I wasn't, it looked like it to them, they would send me a threatening email threatening to take legal action against me. And they were dead serious. And at a certain point I just realized, well, whatever, if you're gonna come after me, take what you want, because I have nothing anyway. At a certain point I was like, I have nothing. I had been sleeping in my car for like a month and I had nothing.
This is after you left the monastery.
This is after I left. I was hardly able to eat, and I was just like, you know what, there's nothing that you can take from me, so I'm just gonna do it anyway. But for me, the magic was that, but then also just coming up with a proprietary way of teaching something, so I wasn't repeating something else that I'd learned. I came up with my own way, right? And so for me, the blessing was coming up with my own proprietary system that I could teach without, so it wasn't somebody else's, it was mine actually. And so when you hire us as coaches, we can help you to do this. We can help you come up with your own proprietary, unique formula that you present to the world. And also all the trauma, Michelle will help you clear all your multidimensional trauma. And we help you overcome fears of visibility. I do it in very practical, grounded ways. She does it in the etheric ways that are invisible, going back many lifetimes.
Why don't we take a minute, let's talk a little bit about multidimensional trauma, because I think what happens for a lot of people and for a lot of light workers is that light workers, I've seen this, it's a template, it's a layout that people work through, and I've seen this pattern over and over again. So like light workers will get to a point and they've pretty much resolved a lot of their family stuff, they've pretty much resolved a lot of their ancestral stuff, they've pretty much resolved like this first round of like karma for themselves. And then they reach a point where it's like it's time to start putting themselves out there. It's time to start putting themselves out there. And what comes up for a lot of people on the feminine side is this multidimensional trauma, around being visible, around being seen, around being heard. And you know, I don't depending on the person, you know, a lot of this, what this looks like is having memories of being persecuted, hurt, harmed, stabbed, killed, right, for putting yourself out there. And there's a whole historical context for this, but that's not really my lens. So I'm not going to go into the history, because to me, my lens and my perspective is all about what's happening on an individual layer, at an energetic layer, at the frequency layer. That's really what I care about right now. And how can we get you freedom from the suffering that you're experiencing right now as it resolves and relates to being visible as a multidimensional being, putting yourself out there to live in your gifts. And what this really comes down to for me was applying a lot of the principles that I learned as a mental health therapist and as a trauma therapist, and then taking them and being really surprised about how much I could actually apply to that, to multidimensional trauma. And so again, we're not doing trauma healing, you know, we're coaches. I do quantum energy work, but the point that I'm making is that everything that we've been called to do, we've already been doing. We've already been doing it, right? And so I want you guys to start to think about what is happening for you that might be this layer of multidimensional trauma, because it may not look like multidimensional trauma at first, unless you're super etherically connected and you're probably not very grounded. And if that's the space you're in, there's no judgment. We can help you with that. But if you're in a really grounded place, multidimensional trauma is not going to look like multidimensional trauma at first. It might look like a little bit of like a fear response that came out of nowhere and you didn't have that before. It might look like distraction. Yep, distraction.
Right, you can't focus.
Easily
on the
stressed.
Task. Yeah.
Yep, not able to concentrate.
Procrastination.
It might look like having a ball, a feeling of like an energy ball or block in your throat that
discouragement
just isn't going away. Discouragement, feelings of I'm feeling defeated before I even start.
Yeah.
All of that is literally the manifestation of this multidimensional trauma that's trying to heal. It's trying to heal. It's begging. It's begging to shift.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what I would say in addition to that is, you know, if you were to boil down in the practical present moment as well, there's fear, right? There's fear of putting yourself out there. There's fear of being visible and being seen for who we are. And that fear, there's different angles of overcoming this fear. And I'll just talk about two angles that I enjoy, and you can try to apply those as well. So the two angles that I love are, number one, you have to think about what is the worst case scenario of this fear. Fear is imagining something. When you're fearful of something, you have to get in touch with the actual thought. There's a belief within fear. All of us need to learn to get in touch with our own mind and to see the precise pieces that make up our mentality. And in the case of fear, there is a belief about something in the future usually, or the present. There's a belief, and there's many times we're imagining some kind of worst case scenario. Like Michelle was imagining that she would go to jail.
That was literally what I felt. My whole body would shake. And yeah, I just had so much fear. Even though it wasn't rational, it made no sense. I had not broken any laws. I'm a very law-abiding citizen.
But it was a clear, visceral, she's going to jail.
Yep.
Right? So like within you, there's a fear. Fear has a belief. You have to think about what is the worst case scenario that fear is believing in. For me, I kept thinking I was going to go to court. Like for me, that was my moment. I couldn't stop imagining court scenes and stuff. For real. I couldn't stop imagining myself in court having to defend my position and whatever. And I thought I was going to court. I'm going to court. I didn't know there wasn't any clear thing that would happen. My parents always told me I could be a lawyer. And so like my mind just prepares what I would say, what would I say? But like I thought I was going to court. And we have to at some point accept the worst case scenario of the fear. This is one of the most beautiful ways to overcome it, is to think, okay, what's the worst case scenario? So I'll talk about other examples. So for me, at other times I thought, I'm gonna lose this client. And sometimes I had fear, I'm gonna lose this client. And even though I was trying to do the work, I was doing some video editing project at the time. I thought, I'm gonna lose this client, and my fear created it, and it happened, and the client dropped off even though I put in lots of effort. My fear created it, and I lost the client. And then later on, I tried a different way, and instead of being fearful of, say, getting evicted from my apartment and not having enough money to eat food, this really happened to me, I just accepted. Okay, if they put an eviction notice on my door, I accept. If I can't find enough money for food, I accept. You know, I accept.
Fasting's good for me anyways.
Yeah, fasting's good for me anyway. I'll find a way. You know, there's someone is gonna help me out if I really need it. You know what I mean? So I just accepted. I accept. I may have to ask for help. I accept that. I may have to ask for help. I may not be able to eat food. I may get an eviction notice on my door. It's not like I'm gonna get thrown into the streets. That's actually illegal for someone to do, I thought of. This brings me to the other way. Then the other way is like logic.
Applying logic.
Logic.
Yes.
Seeing through the fear, we can say. Just see through the fear. Fear is painting some kind of scenario. It's painting an unfavorable picture. Number one, we have to accept that picture as being possible and open your heart and embrace it. This is what acceptance is. And this is what my time of being homeless for a month, living in my car with no money for food and no place to shower, taught me, is opening my heart and embrace my situation. If you can't change it, you have to embrace it. You have to face it, and then the difficulty disappears. Most of the difficulty disappears, and our heart just feels peaceful. And after that, we just become unshakable.
And we become able to find solutions.
Yeah.
And we become able to shift the scenario.
It shifts. And when you resist, it persists.
And that was kind of what I had to do, because for me, I remember there was a day where I was like, you know what, whatever the F this fear is, I guess I'm just gonna feel it today. Today's the day that I'm just gonna feel this fear. And I remember I laid there for 3 hours, shaking and trembling in this fear. My body was just covered in sweat, and I was free from it after that. But it required a deep level of commitment, focus, concentration, and a willingness to be really uncomfortable. And that's a lot of what this visibility journey is it's about willing to be comfortable. But here's what you gain. Let's talk about what we gain from being visible. You know, let's talk about all the benefits of really pushing through this.
I just want to finish up this point real quick.
Sure.
So the logic is the second point. So accepting is number one, and the logic is seeing through is number two. So just think about, okay, my fear is painting a scenario. We need the eyes that can see through this and realize it's not real. It's an illusion. It's like you're in a holographic hallucination, right? I went to a mall, or no, I saw on YouTube, a mall in Japan has dolphins that jump out of the floor and lions and tigers that walk around, but it's not real. It's just a hologram. And fear is painting some kind of hologram like this, and you need to start to see through instead of believing, oh, that's a real tiger. Oh, that's just that's just mentally created. It's not real, right? It's just an illusion. And if you can see through the fear and just realize, actually, there's no logic to this, there's no truth to this, this is not real. You know, I'm not gonna go to jail if I did nothing wrong. I'm not gonna go to court necessarily if I did nothing wrong, right? I'm not gonna they're not gonna throw me onto the street. They'll put an eviction notice on my door. I can handle that. I can handle that. I may have to ask my parents for a couple $100. I can handle that, right? Like, oh, I'll fast for a week. I can handle that, right? So you start to think you start to see through and realize that the fear is painting a picture that isn't real.
Yeah.
Fear is painting a picture. I helped a woman one time. She was so afraid of getting some kind of medical procedure done because she thought the doctors were going to mess with her during the time. And I just helped her to see, the first, that doesn't happen. She also thought she was going to get stuck in the MRI machine. She's going to get stuck in the machine. And I'm like, they've done thousands and thousands of these and no one's gotten stuck. You know, you're gonna be okay. And she's like, okay, that makes sense, right? So you have to use your common sense as well to see through the fear.
Yes.
So that's the second way. So when you boil down the visibility problem that you may be experiencing, you know, again, you'll know if you have this problem if I say to you, okay, go put yourself out there 5 minutes a day, Facebook Live, and then you get frozen, then you know that there is a problem there. And the two ways to overcome this fear is one, accept the worst case scenario, and two, see through the fear and realize that it's not real. It's not painting a picture of something that's real. You don't have to believe in it anymore.
Yeah. So let's wrap this up with a little bit of commentary on what are the benefits of being visible. Why would we go through all this discomfort and all this fear and all this inner work? What is the bounty on the other side of it? And there's a few things. The first is, when we become visible and we become vulnerable to the people that we're here to work with, we get to have amazing connections. We get to have amazing heart-centered connections with our tribe, with our clients. This is something that John and I get to experience every day, is to have these amazing connections with our clients that wouldn't have been able to find us if we hadn't have put ourselves out there. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so rewarding when you put yourself out there for who you really are, and you find out that there's people who embrace you and love you and accept you for who you are. You make connections on different levels. It's like you've taken some kind of armor off your heart, and now all of a sudden you can connect. How wonderful is that? That's amazing. Number two is, I guess, you can have some success in your business. You'll start to actually get some success. You'll get people interested in becoming your client. Oh my God. You might even get some paying clients. You may even get some higher ticket paying clients who buy packages from you. And there's nothing more rewarding in our life than realizing people really love our work. They're interested in our work.
They respect it.
They value our work, and that we can actually make a living doing the work that we love. This is a feeling of freedom and abundance that I think only the very fortunate experience.
Yeah, and that's what we want for you. We want you to be one of the fortunate ones that experience this. And if you're watching this and you know that this is your destiny, that it's your destiny to make an impact and to have massive abundance, living in what you're great at and what you came here to do, it's time for us to chat. We'd love to chat with you. We're gonna leave a link below. Click the link below to schedule and activate your legacy chat. And yeah, we just want to connect heart to heart. We want to hear what you're up to in the world, and we just cannot wait to connect with each and every one of you.
Yeah, so thank you for enjoying this video. Click the link below to schedule a call. We want to connect with you. Okay, have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow for day number 2, abundance.
Woo!
Bye-bye.